No, you're up.
You want me to do it?
Yeah.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone.
Listen to Senator Boscola.
Well, I don't know. Does the gov listen to me at times?
Always.
Always. Oh, good answer. Anyway, I want to first introduce some guests that are here today, especially the elected. So we have Senator Nick Miller, Representative Steve Samuelson, Representative Kyle Donahue, Representative Aaron Coffer, our county executor, Lamont LaCour, our former mayor and former Lehigh County Executive Don Cunningham, our former mayor John Callahan, and our current mayor Willie Reynolds. So I'm really proud to kick this off today and stand with Governor Shapiro. Earlier this year he came to Orshore, coincidentally a company that got its start not too far from here. I also wanted to point out to Governor Shapiro that I was born maybe 3 or 4 blocks from here.
Wow.
And my father did work here at the Bethlehem Steel and the BOF basic. So this is very personal for me, very, very personal. Anyway, we're here with Governor Shapiro to announce his new economic development strategy. And I said it then at Orshore, and I'll say it again. For over a decade, Pennsylvania sat on the sidelines and let other states pass us by on sound economic development policy and investing in our future. So Governor Shapiro wanted to change that, and he got started right away. Only 2 years into office, we have an amazing budget, and we're getting Pennsylvania back into the economic development game. And today we're here to let everyone know that Pennsylvania is open for business and ready to invest. When government works in collaboration with the business community, it results in a better tomorrow for all of our communities, and Bethlehem is proof of that. Look around us. Steel stacks, PBS 39, walk down 3rd Street with all the new construction, the vibrant new businesses and residents, and the community college, and the greenway, and the parking garages. This growth came about because government used the programs together with investment from private businesses and nonprofit organizations to invest in a better tomorrow. This budget that I just voted for and the governor signed shows a renewed commitment to growing Pennsylvania. I wanted to point out 4 things specifically. First, the streamlining the permit process. I told the Pennsylvania Chamber a few months ago that the amount of calls to my office to get delayed permits and licenses was choking growth, and I was committed to working across the aisle to find that better process. This new budget created the SPEED program, streamlining permits for economic expansion and development program, with the goal of expediting the permitting process with additional staff and using third-party reviews. Common sense. That's what our government needs, common sense, and that's what Governor Shapiro is delivering. Second, increasing the net operating loss from 40% to 80% over 4 years. This is a game changer for new business, and this change will provide critical financial stability for startup businesses to grow and invest in innovation here in Pennsylvania. Third, expanding the historic preservation incentive tax credit from $5 million to $20 million. We are going to save these buildings located right here where we are standing, right here. We're going to compete, Governor Shapiro, and we're going to get some of that money. And we will. I know we will. Fourth, funding the sites program. Improving Pennsylvania's infrastructure and building pad-ready sites will better enable us to compete in a remarkably competitive economy. We have the workforce to compete with anyone, and companies need to know Pennsylvania is serious about delivering on the economic development front and is committed to fostering growth. So I know Governor Shapiro will not take his eyes off the goal of building a better Pennsylvania for all of us. Pennsylvania is now on the field. We here in Bethlehem and across the Lehigh Valley are ready to compete. And Governor, thank you so much for being here so many times, more than any other governor that I can recall. And I know your future is bright and maybe the
All right, thank you very much.
Federal, but still keep coming here even if you go federal. Come back.
Thanks.
Oh, I'm supposed to introduce the secretary that's been here a lot too, Secretary Seigel.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you so much, Senator. It's great to be here with the governor, with all these terrific dignitaries and business leaders for my weekly visit to the Lehigh Valley. It's just actually, the senator talked about the release of our economic development strategy in the Lehigh Valley, but it was also just about 2 months ago, or a little more than 2 months ago, that the governor and I were down the road in Allentown to celebrate the award of just over $1 million to redevelop a site there through what at the time was the PA Sites Pilot Program. It was a really great project, one worth celebrating. I love that project. But as much as that funding meant for that site and its future business prospects, we also knew that the $10 million we had in the pilot program was not enough, not really nearly enough, to meet the demand for us to compete across the state. That's why I am so thrilled and honored to be standing here with Governor Shapiro to celebrate a really huge win for our economic competitiveness. The passage of $500 million in his budget for site development, $400 million of which will go directly to a full-scale PA Sites program. This is a big investment. It's bold, and most of all, it's what's needed for our communities and regions of Pennsylvania to compete. When we were developing the 10-year economic development strategy that we released in January, again in the Lehigh Valley, our research made it abundantly clear that a lack of available sites is one of the biggest obstacles we face in trying to attract and retain businesses here in Pennsylvania. And in addition to the data showing it, it was one of the most common things we heard, both from economic development partners like Don Cunningham and colleagues, and from real estate and business professionals around the country like Jay, who you'll hear from in a second. And we really couldn't let that stand. When businesses are looking at different states to expand and create jobs, they need a site that works for them. And many of our competitor states have out-invested us for years, creating pad-ready sites for a variety of businesses to get projects done quickly. That dynamic changes with the passage of Governor Shapiro's budget. Soon we'll have $500 million to devote to site preparation, an investment that will benefit all regions of Pennsylvania and serve as a critical element of our business attraction and retention efforts. That means more companies can create family-sustaining jobs for Pennsylvanians. That means stronger communities and local economies. And importantly, it means we are planting a flag globally, signaling to the business community that Pennsylvania is open for business. From the beginning, when we launched our economic development strategy right here, we stressed this wasn't just a report for the shelf. It was a blueprint for action. The governor and I take that extremely seriously, and one of the marquee goals we laid out in that strategy, investing in site development, is becoming a reality. That's what we mean when we say Pennsylvania gets it done. We walk the walk. Combined with other key investments in the budget, like investments in our main streets, in our tourism efforts, and many more, we're making Pennsylvania a better place to do business, a better place to live for our residents, a great place to visit, and a better place to innovate. I am so excited to get to work on moving these additional funds out the door to deserving communities, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. Thank you so much. And it's now my honor to introduce our next speaker, Representative Steve Samison. Rep, please.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Secretary Siger. Thank you again for coming back to the Lehigh Valley. And Governor Shapiro, you were here to announce your economic development plan in Bethlehem Township. You were here for the expansion of the property tax rent rebate. You're here every couple of weeks. We appreciate that so much. It's an honor to stand with you today, and I appreciate my legislative colleagues, Representative Coffer, Representative Donahue, for coming and joining us today. This year's budget was a huge win for education and also a huge win for economic development. The economic development strategy that the governor announced in January that has now been enacted into law is going to have benefits for our state, for our region, for decades to come. On the House Finance Committee, we worked on the historic preservation tax credit. Was $5 million, now it's $20 million, and I second Senator Boscola's motion. This would be an excellent project. You got the 1906 Bethlehem Steel headquarters, the 14-story addition from 1928, and the 1952 building. Maybe we could get three different, no, I'm sorry.
There's multiple programs we can apply.
Yes, okay.
I hear you.
Okay. And, but when you think about, in Pennsylvania, we preserve our history and we also plan for the future and we develop. So we have a lot of economic success in Pennsylvania. That economic success is now on high speed with Governor Shapiro's plan that is now in law. The $500 million for site selection is huge, and we will see those benefits for years to come. It's my honor to introduce Jay Garner from Atlanta, Georgia, from Garner Economics, a national expert in site selection who worked with the governor and his team and Secretary Siger on our economic development plan for Pennsylvania, and is currently working with our Lehigh Valley Economic Development Corporation. Jay Garner.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Samuelson. What's this guy from Atlanta doing up in the Lehigh Valley? And I apologize for bringing that hot Atlanta weather with me. But I do feel like I'm at home.
You see a first-place baseball team, right?
Okay. There you go.
Nice.
There you go.
Boom, boom. You know, last September, September 22nd, actually, Secretary Siger and Governor Shapiro invited me, along with 7 other global site location consulting firms, to come to Harrisburg and talk about, in a very candid, open discussion, what does the Commonwealth need to do to become globally competitive in the economic development environment. And it was a great exercise, and I really love the approach that the governor and Rick took, because they said, you need to tell us what we need to hear, not what we want to hear. And so a lot of our consultants, my colleagues from around the globe, were very candid, very concise in that discussion. And so what impressed me, I was just coincidentally in the Lehigh Valley from Sunday until tomorrow, and was asked with the governor coming, could I say a few words, because it kind of worked out perfectly. What impressed me, because I don't see this very often, the governor and his team listened, they acted, and now they are implementing. And that is absolutely huge. And then lastly, how appropriate that you're having this announcement in the Lehigh Valley. I am biased, which I'm allowed to be in my profession, because we look at locations all over the globe. I happen to think that the Lehigh Valley is the shining star for economic development in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So kudos to my friend Don Cunningham and his team, the mayors, the county executives, the developers, all of this who make this a success. I wrote a book a few years ago called Economic Development is Not for Amateurs. Chapter 2 of the book says no product, no project. And this initiative that the legislature passed allows for product to be developed. So, Governor, congratulations to you and your team. You've done a magnificent job. Now the onus is on me and my counterparts to bring the business to the state, because now you're creating the framework, the environment to make it happen. God bless you for doing that.
Thank you, Jay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And it's my pleasure to introduce now Senator Miller. I was just talking to him. I am a West Virginia grad. I'm sorry. Senator Miller is a Penn State grad. We open with Penn State Labor Day weekend in Morgantown. But I still like you. Senator Miller.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you. Thank you, Jay. And thank you, everybody, for joining us this morning. We'll keep it brief, as everybody else has. I know it's hot. Everybody's curious how Governor Shapiro is going to address this heat wave. And on a serious note, I want to thank our laborers. Paul Anthony's here from IBEW, and our gentleman we were talking to earlier out here in this heat. Family-sustaining jobs here in Lehigh and Northampton counties. Appreciate our friends in labor as well. So I want to highlight a couple of our budget wins that we just had last week. Some phenomenal budget, and Governor Shapiro delivered. Whether in economic development or education, historic investment in education, $500 million to our poorest school districts. I always say strong schools, strong communities, and that investment, it pays off for our taxpayers, and it pays off most importantly for our families and students. So that's one win. Secondly, community safety, additional funding for 4 more cadet classes at the state police, dollars for retail theft prevention, a lot of good stuff in there for community safety. And finally, economic development. We've got so many wins on there, supporting small businesses, NOLs, Main Street matters, thinking clean, safe, and vibrant on our main streets, whether it's Bath, Emmaus, or Allentown, or right here in Bethlehem. We're in the heart of the fastest growing region in the Commonwealth, and investments like this from our governor and our General Assembly, they pay off. And when we talk bigger investments like PA sites, you have to the full global picture of the community around it, and tying that together with our business leaders and our community members is a phenomenal effort, and we just delivered on some big stuff. So I want to thank the governor again for the sites program. We'll turn it over to the leader himself, Governor Josh Shapiro.
Thanks, Senator. Thank you. Thank you, Senator Miller. And let me say, we don't get all those wins without leaders like Senator Miller delivering every single day. And I appreciate the fact that Senator Boscola, Representative Samuelson mentioned how often Secretary Siger and I are here in the Lehigh Valley. We're here because this is obviously a critically important part of our Commonwealth. But we're also here because this is an area that's got its act together. From all the elected leaders who are up here to the elected leaders there, business leaders, leaders of labor and others, everybody's rowing in the same direction. Everybody understands the important role that economic development plays in creating a safer, healthier environment where more people can put food on the table and provide for their families. I mean, that's what real freedom looks like, and that's what real opportunity is all about. And you're doing it here in the Lehigh Valley. That's why I came here to announce our strategy. That's why I've come back here multiple times to learn from you. And that's why I'm here today to celebrate the wins that you heard Senator Miller and Senator Boscola and Representative Samuelson and others speak about in our state budget. Listen, I get the privilege of traveling not just here in the Valley, but all across Pennsylvania. And no matter where you go, rural, urban, suburban communities, the terrain may look really different, but folks kind of basically want the same four things. They want really good schools for their kids and grandkids. They want to make sure that they've got safe communities to live in. They want economic opportunity. And they want the freedom to chart their own course and the opportunity to succeed no matter where they are. This budget that we passed delivers on all four of those basic Pennsylvania principles. Today, I want to just focus on one, though, and that is our strategy when it comes to economic development. I knew that after I got elected, that we needed to hit the ground running. And I'm grateful to people like Don Cunningham and John Callahan who joined my transition team and helped us get started. From there, I knew we had to surround ourselves with experts like Secretary Rick Siger, who knew how to do this job to attract the great talent to these important positions. Then I knew we had to have a strategy. We haven't had an economic development strategy literally in 20 years in Pennsylvania. And then finally, we needed the dollars to compete. As Jay and his colleagues told us when we had those candid conversations, Pennsylvania wasn't losing the game when it came to economic development. We never made it out on the field. And part of the reason for that is we weren't competing with our neighbors, with New York and New Jersey and Ohio to the west. Think about this. Ohio's got 1.5 million fewer people than we do in Pennsylvania. They were investing before this budget 7 times more in economic development than we were every day. And we saw that there were some critical areas where we needed to invest. We needed to invest in our main streets. We needed to make sure that we turned these historical sites into new opportunities for vibrancy. We knew we needed to invest in site development because, after all, we didn't have places across Pennsylvania we could bring would-be employers to and say, here's where you should locate. All of that changed in this bipartisan budget, where we were able to bring Republicans and Democrats together to get stuff done for the good people of Pennsylvania. Now, I'm the only governor in the whole country with a divided legislature, literally the only one. So for us to pass anything, it requires Republican and Democratic votes. And that's exactly what we did here in investing in our main streets and our historic sites, making sure that we're promoting so many important aspects of our economy, including tourism, which is a huge piece of what goes on quite literally right here. But we also now are in a position to take dirt like this and turn that into real freedom and real opportunity. To take dirt like this and put people to work, not just erecting a building, but providing family-sustaining jobs on that ground. To take dirt like this that looked different when Senator Boscola was born 32 years ago just around the corner. and give us again something we can look at here with a promise for a brighter future. This is an area where we needed to invest, and now we're in a position to do just that. So I came back here to the Lehigh Valley to sign that $500 million bill that provides for the redevelopment of dirt like this into jobs and economic opportunity. I came back here because y'all have your act together. I came back here to sign this into law because so many of you have helped us and taught us along the way. And I came back here because your legislative delegation had a seat at the table to make this happen. This is historic. And at some point down the road, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, as you all build the buildings you're going to build, as you expand your great healthcare institutions as you're going to, you will know that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania believed in you, bet on you, and invested in this ground where we're going to be able to make transformational change for our companies and our families here in the Valley and all across Pennsylvania. So it is good to be back, and now we're going to sign that into law.
For you? I guess this is like
Hey, reps on this side.
We're going to straighten this. Get the tablecloth set there, Tom. Don Cunningham.
He's right here,
All
right
right.
behind you.
We ready here? My name's not long enough. All right. Senator, for you.
All right.
Senator, thank you. Rep, thank you. Appreciate you. And this bill, and not the $500 million that goes with it, but this bill, I'm going to give to Don Cunningham, a guy I had the chance to work with when I was a state representative, who's done a ton for economic development in this area and who's helped teach us along the way. Don, thank you.
All right.
Very, very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. And with that, Don's going to take all the questions from the media. We're trying to make this quick because I know it's hot. Gang, you want to come join me here? All right.
Thank you for this.
Rosie, are we good? Okay, go ahead.
Governor Shapiro, hi, Miguel from NBC Philly. Just wanted to see if you could give us any update on the assassination attempt investigation from state police. I know there's been a back and forth over what went wrong with security and who was in charge of securing the building that the shooter got on top of.
There's an ongoing investigation. The federal government's taking the lead as to the assassination attempt against the former president. Pennsylvania State Police is leading the investigation into the two wounded Pennsylvanians, along with, unfortunately, Corey, whose life was taken from us as he was there advocating for his preferred candidate. That should never, ever happen. And that is something that needs to be looked into, investigated fully, and I'm not going to get ahead of law enforcement on that. They'll report back to you when they are ready. Anything else?
Have you been able to talk to the two injured victims' families?
I have reached out to both injured victims' families. I've spoken to one and left a detailed message for the other. And of course, I've spoken to the Comparator family, both Corey's wife and his two daughters, and I spoke about them a couple days ago in Butler County. Okay, thank you all very, very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for this.
Thanks. Thank you. Appreciate you and happy work.